Hi everyone, welcome back to Julia's story. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. Money buys silence. It buys polished floors and careful smiles and doors that open without me touching them. It does not buy the sound I heard the first night I put on the city's dirt and sat on the cold pavement outside a corner cafe. Tires whispered on wet asphalt. A bus sighed. Somewhere a radio played an old love song low enough to make the street feel like it was remembering something. I tugged my frayed cap lower and let the chill climb my sleeves. I wanted to feel small. I wanted to feel what it is like when no one looks at you long enough to decide who you are. I told myself this was a simple test. 1 week in clothes that used to belong to someone else. No watch, no wallet, no driver shadowing my steps. I kept only a phone with the battery barely on and an emergency number hidden under a name that meant nothing. Malik would watch from 2 blocks away and only step in if a line was crossed. The rules were my idea. The disguise was mine too. So was the fear that sat under my ribs like a stone. I chose this cafe because I had walked past it 100 times from the back seat of a car with tinted glass and never once seen the people who kept its lights on. That was the real reason. The official reason was something about philanthropy, about wanting to prove to myself that I gave for more than the press release. The truth was simpler. I wanted to know if anyone would stop. They did not. Not at first. Shoes tapped past. Some sped up. A boy stared until his mother tugged him along. A man with a camera took a picture without asking and kept walking. A young woman in a sharp coat dropped a coin and never met my eyes. It rang against the cup like a tiny bell with no ceremony attached. I was thinking about coffee I could not afford when the cafe door pushed open and let out a ribbon of warm air. She stepped into it like it belonged to her. Dark hair pulled back. Plain sweater rolled to the elbows. Eyes that looked at me the way weather looks at a field, not cruel, not kind, just honest. She had a cloth in one hand and the burn mark on her wrist that all cafe people seem to wear like a medal. "You look frozen," she said. Her voice was steady, not pitying. "Come inside for a minute. My boss is not here yet." I shook my head and kept my chin tucked into the collar. It was part of the plan to refuse the first offer, to see if the offer was real. She did not argue. She disappeared and returned with a paper cup and a brown bag. "Coffee. A cheese roll. Eat here or take it away. Your choice." I stared at the bag. "You do not know me," I said. "I do not need to," she said. "No one should be this cold alone." There are words you can hide behind when you have spent years buying your way out of bad appointments and worse dinners. Those words evaporate when someone you have never met hands you warmth and does not ask your name. I wrapped my fingers around the cup and the heat went all the way up my arms. I had not realized how much I missed the simple mercy of someone making something for me. "What is your name?" I asked. "Lily," she said. "And you?" "Eli," I lied, the name falling out of some old corner of memory. She nodded like it fit. "Eat, Eli. You can sit on the back step if you want. It is dry." When the door swung shut behind her, the street felt different. Smaller. Closer. I broke the cheese roll in half, and steam rose into the morning air like a prayer I did not know how to say anymore. I took a sip of coffee, and it was bitter and perfect, and it hurt. Not because it was hot, but because Lily had paid for it. I saw the way her eyes had flicked toward the counter where a small jar sat half full of coins. Tips. She had taken from her own just to make sure I was less cold. I have stood on stages with lights in my eyes and told rooms full of people that kindness changes the shape of a city. Nothing I ever said there felt as heavy as the way that sentence lived itself out in a brown paper bag on a wet sidewalk. She came back out with a bucket and a mop and started cleaning the tiles by the door like the morning depended on it. When she reached my side of the step, she paused. "Do you have somewhere to go tonight, Eli?" she asked. I shook my head. "I have options," I said, because the habit of lying for safety feels a lot like caution. "There is a shelter 3 streets down that is not terrible," she said. "If you ask for Lena, she will make sure you get a blanket that is not scratchy. It fills up fast. Get there before dark." A car passed slow enough to splash water onto my shoes. She shifted her body so the spray hit her ankles and not mine. It was nothing, and it was everything. "Thank you," I said. My voice came out smaller than I meant it to. I was 38 years old, and I had learned how to keep my face steady in boardrooms while men twice my age tried to break me. I could not keep it steady now. My eyes burned and did not listen when I told them to stop. She saw. She did not pretend not to. She set the mop aside and crouched so we were level. No lectures. No story about a cousin who got clean and is now a manager somewhere bright. Just a hand on my sleeve, light as a promise. "You are not disposable," she said. That sentence walked a long road through me and found the part one hide even from rooms with closed doors. I nodded, once, because my mouth was not ready to work again. She picked up the bucket and resumed her morning. People started to arrive. The cafe filled with steam and chatter and the kind of laughter that breaks the back of a hard day before it begins. Inside, a bell chimed as someone pushed through with the impatience of a person who believes their time is more valuable than anyone else's. A man's voice snapped across the small space. "Who comped table 3 yesterday? Do not lie. I check the till. Every night." Lily's voice came back, softer but not smaller. "I did." The man snorted. "For who?" "Another one of your charity cases." "For a woman who had not eaten," Lily said. "You want to feed the city. Do it on your own dime," he said. "One more giveaway and you can find another place to smile at strangers." I felt the heat leave my hands. The coffee went cold in a second. I had a choice. Stay silent and keep the test intact. Or stand up and break it before it taught me anything worth knowing. A shadow fell across the step. I looked up and saw a man my age leaning against the doorframe, expensive coat, hair arranged, the smugness of someone who had never had to earn forgiveness. His gaze landed on Lily and spread into a smile I did not trust. "Lily," he said, "we need to talk." She went still, just for a heartbeat, like a rabbit measuring the field. The boss turned toward him, grin flipping into something polite in an instant. "Morning, Marco. Good to see you. You still coming to the tasting tonight?" Marco did not look at him. He kept his eyes on Lily. "You did not answer my messages," he said, and the way he said it told me everything I needed to know about what he thought he owned. Lily set the mop back in the bucket and lifted her chin. "I have nothing to say to you." He stepped inside, ignoring the wet floor sign. The woman behind him wore a coat too bright for the hour and a ring that could sell 10 months of my old mistakes. She looked at Lily the way a cat looks at a bird it grew bored of and then found again. Marco took the woman's hand without looking away from Lily. "Consider her replaced," he told the boss, and slid a set of keys across the counter. The metal sang when it hit. The boss turned to Lily with his mouth already forming the first word he thought would solve his morning. I stood. The scrape of the chair legs on the wet pavement felt louder than it should have. 4 hours, I had been invisible, just another forgotten shadow sitting outside the cafe. But when I stood, the whole room shifted its gaze toward me. Lily's eyes widened, not with recognition, but with something between surprise and warning. Marco, the man with the expensive coat and sharper tone, raised a brow. He looked at me as if I had stepped into a place I didn't belong. "And who exactly are you?" he asked. His voice dipped in arrogance. I pulled my cap lower, still wearing the part of the drifter, but the weight of what I had seen pressed harder on my chest. "Someone who thinks you should leave her alone," I said. My voice was hoarse, not only from the act, but from the truth underneath. Marco laughed, a short, cutting sound. He tugged the woman on his arm closer as if to display her. "Do you even know who you're talking to? This isn't your business." The boss behind the counter shifted uncomfortably, clearly torn between the money Marco represented and the employee who had just risked her job for compassion. Lily's jaw tightened, and for the first time I noticed the faint tremble in her hands. I wanted to tear the mask away, to reveal that I wasn't some vagrant with holes in my shoes, but a man who had the power to end Marco's smugness with a single phone call. But that would have ruined the test. Instead, I steadied my voice. "It became my business the moment you tried to humiliate her in front of everyone." The cafe had gone quiet. Customers who had come for coffee and chatter now held their cups midair, eyes flicking between Marco and me like an audience waiting for the next act. Marco stepped closer, his cologne sharp against the faint smell of coffee and soap. "You want to play hero?" he sneered. "Let me tell you something. Lily here has always had a way of attracting strays. You're just another one. She doesn't know how to keep her place." Lily flinched, and I felt my fists tighten inside the sleeves of my worn jacket. Her place. The words rattled in my ears. I had heard them before in other tones, in other rooms, usually directed at people who did not have enough money to fight back. "I think," I said slowly, "you're the one who doesn't know his place." The gasp that slipped from a table in the corner was almost comical, but the tension was anything but. Marco's jaw flexed. He looked ready to shove me back out onto the street where he thought I belonged. Instead, he leaned in closer, whispering words meant only for me. "Do you know what happens to people who cross me?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "They disappear. Don't overstep." I could have answered him with the truth, that people who crossed me usually ended up sending me apology letters wrapped in contracts, but the disguise held me still. My silence made him smirk, and he turned his back to me as though I had been dismissed. "Lily," he said sharply, "you'll regret this. You think kindness pays the bills? Let's see how far you get without someone like me." The door slammed behind him and his jeweled companion, but the echo stayed. Lily stood frozen for a moment, then picked up the mop again, her face blank. I sat back down, every muscle in my body fighting the urge to reveal myself right then. But I didn't. Instead, I watched as she straightened her shoulders and began wiping the floor as if nothing had happened. She had been humiliated. She had been threatened. And still, she stood there quietly, fighting her battles in silence. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have guessed, was that her silence wasn't weakness. It was armor. And somewhere behind it, secrets waited that would soon make me question everything I thought I knew about her. The bell above the cafe door rang again, and when I turned, it wasn't Marco. It was someone else, looking for Lily, carrying an envelope with her name written in hurried ink. The way she froze told me everything. Whatever was in that envelope could change the entire game. The man who delivered the envelope looked exhausted, as if he had run across half the city. His shirt clung to him, his hair damp with sweat. He placed the paper carefully on the counter, nodding toward Lily without saying a word. "This is for you," he said simply, then left as quickly as he had arrived. The whole cafe seemed to hold its breath as Lily's fingers hovered above the envelope. I could see her knuckles pale, her lips pressed into a thin line. For someone who had faced Marco's venom without flinching, this piece of paper seemed to terrify her more than anything. She slipped it into her apron pocket without opening it. Instead of curiosity, there was only dread in her eyes. She turned back to wiping the counter, pretending nothing had happened. I leaned forward. "Aren't you going to read it?" Her eyes darted to me, sharp as glass. "It's none of your concern," she said. But her voice wavered just slightly, betraying the weight of whatever words hid inside that envelope. The rest of the shift passed in a blur of customers and clattering dishes. I stayed in my corner, playing the part of a forgotten drifter, but my mind spun with questions. Who had sent it? Why did it shake her so much? When the cafe finally emptied and the boss locked the register, Lily grabbed her coat. The envelope slipped from her pocket and skidded across the floor. I picked it up before she could. "Looks important," I said softly. She froze, then snatched it from my hand, her expression darkening. "It's not for you." Her defensiveness only deepened my curiosity. I thought she might tear it up right then, but instead, she tucked it into her coat and walked briskly toward the back door. I followed at a distance, careful to keep my cover intact. Out in the alley, the rain had stopped, leaving the air heavy with the smell of wet asphalt. Lily leaned against the wall under a flickering street lamp. She held the envelope close to her chest for a long moment before finally tearing it open. The light was dim, but I caught a glimpse of the words as the paper trembled in her hands. "We know what you did. It's only a matter of time before the truth comes out." Her face drained of color. She pressed the letter against her mouth, her breath coming out in short, shaky bursts. I stepped forward, instinct pulling me closer. "Lily, stay out of it," she snapped, her eyes blazing with something between fear and fury. "You don't understand." She shoved the letter back into her coat and stormed off into the night. I could have stopped her, could have revealed everything. My name, my wealth, the reason I was even here. But I didn't. Instead, I stood under that flickering lamp, the echo of her footsteps fading, and realized this test was no longer about kindness. Lily had secrets. Dangerous ones. And if I wasn't careful, they would swallow both of us whole. The question was no longer if I would break my disguise, but when. I couldn't sleep that night. The words from the letter replayed in my mind like a broken record. "We know what you did. It's only a matter of time before the truth comes out." Those weren't empty words. They carried the weight of history, of mistakes that threatened to resurface. And Lily, she carried them alone. The next morning, I returned to the cafe, still dressed in the same ragged clothes. My disguise felt heavier now, not just fabric and dirt, but chains keeping me from stepping in fully. Lily was already there, brewing coffee with tired eyes. She didn't notice me at first. When she did, her lips pressed together, as though she regretted every kindness she had ever shown me. "Rough night?" I asked, careful with my tone. Her gaze hardened. "You shouldn't be here." "I just wanted coffee," I replied, though we both knew that wasn't the truth. She poured it into a chipped mug, sliding it toward me. Her hands trembled just slightly. The letter was still in her pocket. I could see the outline of the folded paper. "Who sent it?" I asked quietly. Her shoulders stiffened. "I told you, it's none of your business." I leaned in closer. "You stood up for me when you didn't have to. At least let me stand with you." For a moment, her facade cracked. Her eyes softened, filling with a sorrow so deep it made my chest ache. But just as quickly, she shut it down. "You don't know what you're asking," she whispered. The bell above the cafe door jingled, cutting her off. A man in a dark suit walked in, his presence shifting the air immediately. He wasn't a regular. His shoes gleamed, his watch glinted under the dim light. He didn't look at the menu or the pastries. His gaze went straight to Lily. "You got the letter," he said flatly. The mug nearly slipped from her hand. She tried to compose herself, but the fear in her eyes betrayed her. "I don't know what you're talking about." The man smirked, pulling out a chair. "You can't hide forever, Lily. Not from us." My blood ran cold. Us. Whoever they were, this wasn't just a personal matter. It was bigger. Lily shot me a desperate glance, as if begging me not to interfere. But the tremor in her hands told me everything. I couldn't stay silent. "Maybe you should leave," I said, my voice calm but edged with steel. The man looked at me, then really looked. His smirk widened. "Ah, the stray. I've heard about you." Something in the way he said it made me realize this wasn't just about Lily. They knew about me too. My disguise wasn't as safe as I thought. Before I could respond, he leaned across the table toward her. "We'll be in touch. Don't make this harder than it has to be." He left the cafe, leaving a silence so heavy it crushed the air. Lily's face was pale, her eyes glossy with unshed tears. She whispered only 3 words before retreating into the kitchen. "I'm so sorry." And just like that, I knew the truth she was hiding wasn't just hers. Somehow, it was tied to me too. The cafe felt emptier than usual the next morning, even though the tables were full. Every sound, the clinking of cups, the hiss of the espresso machine, faded into the background. My mind was consumed with the image of that man in the dark suit and Lily's trembling hands. When she finally stepped out from the kitchen, her eyes were red, though she tried to hide it with a weak smile. She placed a plate of toast on my table, but neither of us touched it. "You don't owe me anything," I said gently. "But I need to understand. Who are they? What do they want from you?" Her shoulders slumped. She sank into the chair across from me, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. "They're not going to stop," she whispered. "They never do." "Why? What did you do?" Her eyes flicked up, filled with pain. "It's not what I did. It's what my family did. My father, he owed them money. More than we could ever repay. When he died, they came after me. I thought if I disappeared, if I kept my head down, they would forget." Her voice cracked, and she shook her head. "But they never forget." The weight of her confession settled over us. Suddenly, her kindness to a supposed homeless stranger made sense. She knew what it was like to lose everything, to be invisible, to be hunted by shadows from the past. "What happens if you don't pay them?" I asked. Her eyes grew glassy. "They'll ruin me, and anyone close to me." She looked at me then, her gaze fierce. "That means you too." For a moment, I almost told her the truth, that I wasn't who she thought I was, that I had the power to make those men vanish with a single phone call. But I held back. Not yet. If I revealed myself now, would she ever believe I cared for her as a person, not a project? Before I could respond, the cafe door burst open. Marco, the waiter who had mocked me days ago, stormed in. His eyes darted between Lily and me, his jaw clenched. "Lily," he spat, "you're bringing trouble here. Those men, they've been asking about you. And if they scare off customers, it's not just your problem, it's all of ours." She flinched as though struck. "I'm sorry, Marco, You'll what?" he snapped. "Get us all hurt? Maybe you should leave before they come back." The words hit her hard. I saw it in the way her shoulders sagged, in the way she couldn't meet his eyes. I stood, stepping between them. "Back off," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. Marco sneered. "And who are you to defend her? A nobody off the streets." The cafe fell silent. Everyone was watching. Lily's lips parted as though she might speak, but nothing came out. I clenched my fists. Part of me wanted to end the charade, to reveal exactly who I was. But another part of me knew the timing wasn't right. "Not yet." Marco finally scoffed and stormed out, leaving the air tense and heavy. Lily's hands were shaking so badly she dropped the rag she was holding. I picked it up and placed it gently on the counter. "You're not alone anymore," I said softly. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, but before she could answer, the bell above the door jingled again. The man in the dark suit had returned. And this time, he wasn't alone. The 2 men in suits filled the doorway like shadows. Their silence was louder than shouting, and every customer in the cafe froze. Even the sound of the espresso machine seemed to hold its breath. Lily's hand brushed against mine under the counter. Her fingers trembled, and though she didn't say a word, the message was clear. Don't move. Don't speak. The first man, the one who had come before, smiled faintly. Lily, we warned you. His eyes shifted to me. And you, the stray who doesn't know when to walk away. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't used to being spoken to like that. All my life, people bowed, obeyed, or at least respected the weight of my name. But here, in these ragged clothes, I was just another nobody. And strangely, it burned more than I expected. Still, I forced myself to stay in character. I don't know what you want, I muttered, my voice low. The man leaned across the counter. We want what belongs to us. And until she pays, she belongs to us too. Lily's lips parted in protest, but no words came out. Her fear was choking her. I pushed my chair back slowly, standing to my full height. She doesn't belong to anyone. For a moment, silence hung in the air. The cafe customers stared, wide-eyed, waiting to see what would happen. The second man chuckled, shaking his head. You've got courage, I'll give you that. But courage won't save her. He pulled a card from his jacket and placed it on the counter. Black paper, gold letters. Just an address, no name. We'll be expecting you both. If you care about her at all, you'll come. With that, they turned and left, the bell jingling cheerfully as if mocking the storm they left behind. Lily collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. This is it, she whispered. They're not going to stop. I crouched beside her, lowering my voice. Then we won't run anymore. She looked at me then, eyes searching mine. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. I almost said it. Almost told her who I really was, that I wasn't a drifter with nothing to lose, but a man with power, resources, and a name feared in boardrooms around the world. But the words stuck in my throat, because I didn't want her kindness to turn into doubt, or worse, resentment. Instead, I simply said, because someone needs to stand beside you. Her breath caught, as if those words meant more to her than I realized. But deep down, I knew the mask I wore couldn't last much longer. The line between the man I was pretending to be and the man I truly was starting to blur. And when the truth came out, I wasn't sure which would hurt more, her betrayal of trust, or her heartbreak when she realized just how much I had lied. And so, as the night fell and the rain returned, I prepared myself for the inevitable. The confrontation with her past, and the revelation of mine. The rain hadn't let up by the time we reached the address on the black card. It wasn't a dingy alley or an underground club, like I'd expected. No, it was a sprawling mansion on the edge of the city, with tall gates and guards who looked more like statues than men. Lily's hand clutched mine tightly as the gates creaked open. I could feel her trembling, but she didn't let go. Her fear was palpable, yet so was her determination. She wasn't running this time. Inside, the house was dripping with opulence. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above us, and marble floors echoed beneath our footsteps. But the grandeur only made the air feel colder, more suffocating. The man in the dark suit was waiting in the center of the grand hall, leaning casually against a polished railing as though he owned the world. "Lily," he said smoothly, "you finally decided to stop hiding." "I came," she said, her voice shaking but steady enough. "Tell me what you want." "What I've always wanted," he replied. "Repayment. With interest." His eyes flicked to me, sharp and calculating. "And who's this? Your knight in rags." I forced myself not to react. Every part of me wanted to rip off the disguise and show him who he was really dealing with. But revealing myself now would risk everything, the fragile trust Lily and I had built, and the chance to see whether she valued me for the man I was or the fortune I carried. "I'm with her," I said simply. The man smirked. "Then you share her debt." Lily gasped, tugging at my sleeve. "No," He has nothing to do with this. But I didn't flinch. If you want her, you'll have to go through me. That was when the man's expression shifted. Not anger, but amusement. He chuckled lowly, shaking his head. You've got spirit. But you should know, you're playing a game you can't win. And then, as though the walls themselves had ears, another voice rang out from the balcony above us. A deep, commanding voice. Actually, it said, I believe he can. Every head turned, including mine. There, standing in the shadows of the upper floor, was a figure I knew all too well, an old rival from my world of wealth and power. A man who had been waiting for me to slip, to reveal myself. The mask I had worn for weeks suddenly felt paper thin. Lily looked at me with wide, bewildered eyes, as if she sensed the truth hovering just beyond her reach. And in that moment I knew the secret I had worked so hard to protect was about to be ripped away. The room fell into an icy silence as the voice from the balcony echoed down. My chest tightened. I had recognized him instantly. Rashid Al-Fayed, one of the wealthiest men in Dubai, a rival who had always suspected there was more to my sudden disappearance. His sharp eyes met mine, and I knew it was over. Why are you here? I asked quietly, though my voice carried across the marble hall. Rashid's lips curled into a grin. To watch the mighty fall. Imagine my surprise when I hear whispers of a drifter defending a woman in debt, only to discover, his gaze dropped to my worn clothes, then rose again, that it was you hiding in plain sight. Lily turned to me, confusion clouding her face. What is he talking about? I swallowed hard, wishing I could shield her from the truth a little longer. But her eyes demanded an answer, her trembling hands tightening around mine. I'm not who you think I am, I began, my voice heavy. I came to you as a man with nothing, but the truth is I'm... Rashid cut me off with a cruel laugh. A billionaire, Lily. The man beside you is not some homeless wanderer. He is one of the wealthiest men in this country. The words hit her like a slap. She staggered back, her lips parting in disbelief. A billionaire, she whispered. Her gaze darted between us. You lied to me? I stepped forward, desperate. I didn't lie about us, about what I felt. I just wanted someone to see me, not my money. I needed to know if kindness still existed in this world. But she shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. You let me think you were suffering like me. You let me pour out my soul to you, trust you, when you had everything. The men in suits smirked, watching the unraveling drama with satisfaction. Rashid leaned against the railing, clearly savoring every second. I never meant to hurt you, I said, my voice breaking. Every moment we shared was real. Every word I said was true. Her silence was worse than anger. She turned away, her hands covering her face as though she couldn't bear to look at me. And then, the man in the suit slammed his hand on the table. Enough! If he's who you say he is, then this changes everything. The debt will be repaid, with her or with his fortune. I clenched my fists, rage boiling inside me. You won't touch her. But even as I stood tall, ready to fight, my heart was crumbling. Because for the first time, I wasn't sure if Lily would choose to stay or walk away, leaving me with all the wealth in the world but none of the love I craved. The night had begun with secrets. Now it would end with either redemption or ruin. The hall felt smaller now, suffocating with silence. Lily stood frozen in the center, her tears shimmering under the chandelier light. I had faced boardroom battles, hostile takeovers, and rival billionaires, but nothing terrified me more than the way she looked at me in that moment. Not with love, not with hatred, but with betrayal. I don't know who you are anymore, she whispered. Her voice cracked, and each word cut me deeper than any blade. I stepped closer, but she pulled back. Lily, please. I'm still me. The man you shared coffee with on cold mornings, the one you laughed with under the streetlights, that was real. The money doesn't change that. She shook her head, her chest heaving. But it changes everything. You had a choice. You could have told me the truth, but instead, you watched me open my heart to someone I thought was like me. You let me bare my soul while hiding yours. Her words twisted into my ribs. Around us, Rashid and the debt collector watched like vultures, enjoying the storm they had unleashed. Lily, Rashid interjected smoothly, why waste your tears on him? He deceived you. You could walk away now and never look back. I can make sure you never suffer again. The audacity of his offer nearly made me explode, but I bit back my anger. This wasn't about me. It was about her. Lily's eyes flicked to him, then back to me. Her face was a war zone of emotions. Hurt, longing, fear, and something I couldn't quite place. Why should I believe you? She demanded. Because love doesn't lie, I said, my voice breaking. Because when I woke up beside you in that tiny apartment, I felt more alive than I ever did in a penthouse. Because I would give up every cent, every title, every ounce of power, if it meant keeping you. Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe me. I saw it in the flicker of her gaze. But the wound was raw, and the silence between us stretched unbearably. Finally, she whispered, if I stay, I need to know I can trust you. Not your money, not your world. You. I nodded, a desperate promise in my chest. Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. But before her decision could settle, Rashid clapped his hands sharply. The guards stepped forward, their boots echoing ominously on the marble floor. Touching, he sneered. But this melodrama doesn't pay debts. Make your choice quickly, Lily. Him or freedom. Her eyes widened, darting between the guards closing in, Rashid's smirk, and my hand stretched out toward her. And then, with the weight of the world pressing down on her, Lily inhaled sharply, about to choose. Time seemed to freeze, every second dragging as Lily's breath shook in her chest. The guards loomed closer, Rashid's smug smile deepened, and the weight of her choice pressed like iron. My hand stayed outstretched, trembling, not with fear of the men in suits, but with fear of losing her forever. Lily's eyes darted between us, between the easy escape Rashid promised and the uncertain storm of a life with me. For a moment, I thought she would walk away. But then, her chin lifted, her voice stronger than I had ever heard it. I don't want freedom bought with lies, she said, her gaze locked on me. I don't want comfort from someone who sees me as a transaction. I want truth, even if it hurts, even if it breaks me. Her hand shot out and gripped mine tightly. The warmth of her skin against mine sent fire through my veins. Rashid's grin vanished instantly, replaced by fury. You'll regret this, he hissed. He snapped his fingers, and the guards advanced. But I stepped forward, shielding Lily behind me. No, it's you who will regret underestimating me. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the small black device I had hidden all along. The room gasped as the lights of tiny recording cameras flickered alive around the hall, each one capturing every word, every threat, every cruel demand Rashid and his men had made. Did you really think I'd come here unprepared? I asked, my voice echoing with power I had suppressed for weeks. Every moment tonight has been recorded and transmitted. The authorities are on their way. The guards faltered, their confidence slipping. Rashid's face turned pale as realization struck. Beside me, Lily's grip tightened, her tears now mixed with awe. You planned this, she whispered. I nodded, never taking my eyes off Rashid. I wasn't hiding from my enemies. I was luring them out. The sound of sirens pierced the night, growing louder with every heartbeat. Panic spread across the hall as Rashid's empire crumbled in the blink of an eye. But none of it mattered to me. Not the wealth, not the victory, not the rivals fleeing in fear. The only thing that mattered was the woman still holding my hand, despite every lie, every scar, every storm. As the authorities stormed in and Rashid was dragged away, I finally turned to Lily, my voice breaking. I don't deserve you. But if you'll let me, I'll spend forever trying to. She looked at me for a long moment, her tears shining like glass. Then, with a small, trembling smile, she whispered, "Forever sounds like a start." And in that instant, surrounded by chaos, I realized that love, real love, wasn't about wealth or power. It was about finding someone who saw the man behind the mask, and choosing him anyway. The city skyline stretched wide and glowing, its lights reflecting softly on the river. I stood there on the balcony of my penthouse, though for once, the wealth surrounding me didn't feel like a shield. It felt irrelevant, because beside me, Lily leaned against my shoulder, her laughter carried away by the night breeze. So much had changed since the night everything came crashing down. Rashid was gone, his empire dismantled. The whispers and judgment about us had faded into nothing. And me. For the first time in my life, I felt free, not from enemies or expectations, but from the loneliness I had been hiding behind all along. I glanced at her, the woman who had unknowingly unraveled every wall I built. She wasn't dazzled by the cars, the mansions, or the diamonds. She saw me for who I was beneath the titles and power. And somehow, she still chose me. Do you ever regret it? I asked softly, choosing me that night, when you could have walked away. She tilted her head up, her eyes reflecting both the city lights and something far brighter. No, because I didn't choose your money or your name. I chose the man who held my hand when the world tried to tear me down. And I'd choose him again, every time. Her words struck deeper than any deal I had ever sealed. I turned toward her, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. The night air wrapped around us, the city buzzing with life, but in that moment it felt as if we were the only two people in the world. For once, my future didn't look like a business plan or a signed contract. It looked like her smile, her warmth, her love. And for the first time in forever, I wasn't afraid of what tomorrow would bring.